Good evening and welcome. My name is Rion Willard and I'm an architect from the Thinking Hand studio. And I'm just walking through Central Park at the moment, and you might be able to see behind me some of the most fantastically high residential buildings in the world, actually. And it got me thinking, one of the questions that I get asked a lot from clients is, how can I make my building project cheaper? How can we save money? And it doesn't matter the wealth of the client or what kind of budget you're on, there's always a budget to work to, always. And it's one of those practicalities of life. And in general, and you might not like this answer, but the way to save money, the best way to save money on your project is to make it smaller. Always. And everyone's always like, oh, but I need the space, I want more space. And the reality of it is, you want the experience of space, you want the feeling of space. And I could get very philosophical here and we could talk about all the perceptual mechanisms about how space is actually created, and architects will get very interested in that because it is essentially a perception. It's a kind of an experience that our mind creates, is the experience of space. And as architects, we know how to play with it. We know that space is ultimately kind of, there's illusional aspects to it. And you can be in a very big room and it can feel very small, or you can be in a very small room and using the right kind of architectural devices and playing around with light and sound and space and how things are organized, you can make it feel very spacious. And it's that experience of spaciousness is what we're really looking for. That's the kind of sense of well-being, it's a sense of ease, it's a sense of freedom, it's a sense of relaxation. And that's what good architecture can do. And you don't necessarily need oodles and loads of space to do that. So one of my tips for people when you're doing a project is to have a clear out, because you can have a big house, and I go to houses all the time, particularly in remodeling projects. People have got big, beautiful houses and they're filled with shit. It's just filled with stuff, loads and loads of clutter, and we all do it. I'm guilty of it myself. It's very, very easy just to hold on to stuff that you don't need. And I would suggest that as a first stab, get rid of 20% of everything that you own. Just clear it out, because and particularly things like clothes, if you haven't worn it in the last year or so, it's probably take it down to the charity shop and have a big clear out, and try not to hold on to so much stuff. It's very interesting in places like the monastery where I do some work at, the monastic attitude to belongings and material possessions. They have a practice of non-attachment, and they don't hold on to things for very long. So it becomes quite fascinating that they're always kind of letting go of objects. They don't have possessions as such, and yet when you go to the monastery, they live in the most tiny of little kind of monastic cells, but the experience is one of spaciousness. And there's a discipline to creating that sense of spaciousness as well. So, in conclusion, clear out your junk and make your project smaller, and that will give you that feeling of space, and it will save you a hell of a lot of money. And of course, to help you, create space, the feeling of space in a small, tight, constrained space, design is what really adds the value there.